I think we're live.
Awesome.
Hey. Hello, friends. Sorry we're a little late here.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. I see a couple of people on my end here, and this is Gailyn.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Gailyn from Fountain Pendulum.
So, Gailyn and I have been meaning to get together for a while now, and we both are makers, and we both are lovers of fountain pens. And I'll leave the rest to you to introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah. So I am a content creator surrounding my own enjoyment and enthusiasm for fountain pens, fountain pen inks, and stationery. But I also, for a couple of years now, have been making wood desk accessories for fountain pen and ink enthusiasts. So, um, hi. So via the my website, my web store, you can check out the offerings. We have some ink and other things on there as well also. But yeah, I started working with wood when I was quite young and kind of picked it up again a couple of years ago. So it's kind of two of my enthusiasms joined together because my enjoyment for woodworking and my enjoyment for the hobby definitely matched in creating the pieces. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Marina has the links in the description below.
Yes, please do. Yes, and I definitely have to talk to you about something else because there are not a lot of people that do things for watercolor people that work with woodworking. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love watercoloring too. I have been watercoloring for maybe about 10 years or so, just as a hobby. No formal training or anything like that. But I have to admit, now that I have so many fountain pen inks, I often, if I'm doing kind of a watercoloring effect, a lot of times I'll just use fountain pen ink instead of watercolors a lot of time. So yeah, it's I think
works.
yeah, it definitely does. It does, yeah.
Yay! All right, I'm so excited because we've been planning this for a while because
Yeah,
there's
we
something
have
else
a
we
long
have in
while
common.
actually.
We have
Yeah.
a lot in common with you, and I feel like whenever I look for specific Italian pen, I always get like video from your channel. That's
Oh, okay, yeah.
go to.
I definitely have a great love for Italian fountain pens. Um, a lot of different makes and models, and I think we cross on a lot of those. But then you have some Italian brands that I don't have in my collection, at least as of yet. And I think I've got a couple perhaps that you haven't
Yeah.
ventured into yet either. So thank you,
Yeah.
Corolla. Appreciate it.
Yes, so you got some fans here. And so tell me, you go to pen shows in the
Yeah.
US, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, so I'm from the US originally, from the Pacific Northwest. So, it's always nice to be able to go and travel, visit the US, because I'm in Canada, and go to some US shows. So I've really enjoyed that. I've been doing that for a couple of years too. I started out as just a, like participating in pen shows as an attendee, and then gradually I started doing vending as well. But yeah, we have a couple of shows that we do every year so far, and then we always have new shows on a rotation. So kind of a mix of experiencing no shows, but also kind of finding the shows that are good fits for you, both as a vendor and attendee, really. But usually those both match for me. So I think this year too, you this was the first time you went to a pen show, is that right?
Yes, that's true. I was actually about to ask what was your first show as an attendee, and then what was your first one as a vendor?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Pacific Northwest Pen Show was my first as a vendor, so as an exhibitor. but my first pen show as an attendee was Scriptus in Toronto.
Mm.
Yeah. So I actually really like both of those shows. They're still on. Scriptus Toronto is my home show.
Yeah.
And um, it's a great show. It's a one-day show. It's pretty wild. And the Pacific Northwest show is really great too. It's been growing, and I actually got to see Corolla there last year just briefly, but um, yeah, it's a really nice show. That's a weekend show, a little bit smaller, but it's been growing, and I really enjoy it. So um,
Ironic, Corolla still has to go to Scriptus though.
yes, yeah. And I always say when people are considering going to Scriptus, when you plan on it, because it's a one-day show, it's just on a Sunday, you should definitely plan on keeping some time in Toronto because there's a ton of stationery shops there that you definitely would want to visit. So like Wonder Pens, Paper Plus Cloth, the Toronto Pen Shop, um, Laywins. Those are a couple that you definitely want to stop in if you were to come to Toronto for a show for Scriptus. So you can kind of like hop around. They're not all too far away from each other, mostly in the general Toronto area. So yeah, that's a good head up. We'll have to talk about shows at some point too, but I know that San Fran was your first one, yeah?
It was wild. It was very big. So I was actually, yeah, I'm social enough. But I was like, am I that social? It's a little much for the first show. I was actually considering going to Portland show
Oh yeah.
first, and that one was in July. It usually is in July. I think it's the
Yes.
same, right? Next
Yep.
year. And because it's just quieter, it's nice, kind of, I guess, for just like looking around, and it's a good thing to be a little bored. In my book, it's like when you always have that excitement around you, and it's your first time. I was afraid that might be a little too much for me.
Hmm.
And so I actually still hope I can go to Portland at some point soon,
Yeah, that
maybe
would be
next
great.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Portland's would be a good first show for a lot of people because it's definitely a good sized show enough to keep you occupied and entertained, but it's not so overwhelming because San Fran's one of the biggest shows. So that's a deep pool to jump into, I think, as far as shows go. But I don't think you can go wrong. It's just you kind of have
yeah,
to prepare
yeah, but
yourself
like
and brace yourself. Yeah.
I feel like the one thing is like it really depends why you go. And a lot of times for people like me, it's connections that we make. And I really like the quality. And I feel like Corolla and I didn't get to spend that much time together. But
Yeah.
maybe at, North Pacific we would have. Who knows, And I feel like that is something to consider
Mhm.
for whenever, it's not only me or you, but anyone who considers going to the show.
I definitely think the shows that are a little bit on the moderate to smaller side definitely suit themselves well to being able to have more time with meeting people and meeting up with people that you already
Mhm.
know. Um, so yeah, I agree with Curl on that. I really liked the California Pen Show and that scope as well because it's a little bit more akin to the Pacific Northwest show, like a really good show, very solid. That one actually draws some international vendors as well because Nagasawa has been there. But it's definitely has that more cozy vibe where it's a little bit nicer to be able to connect with friends too. So mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like so the one thing what I ultimately did in my case, I just took a day off.
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I'm taking the Saturday off. And I took it off and I was at the show and like I was with people Thursday night, all Friday,
Okay.
and on Sunday.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
I kept my sanity that way.
that's
Uh
awesome.
yeah, but I had to sacrifice, some show floor time.
Yeah, I know. It's a balance for sure. So, and that, kind of ties in with like show prep too. And like the first day that you're there, most people plan to hit like whatever tables that they have like on their priority list. Maybe there's something that you really want to check out or possibly get before they're not available anymore or something like
Mhm.
that. And then at least in my experience, like the last day is usually a little bit more low key and more time with friends than more like the first day is a lot of shopping.
Yeah. So for me, I also kind of tricked myself psychologically into buying things that way because I split things, you know. As you said, there are things that you must have. And I
Yeah.
know, okay, so in my case, my favorite cult, the Traveler's Notebook.
Yep.
And that was, I think, one of the first booths I went to at 9 a.m. It was still packed as crazy. And but I wanted to get that little Love and Trip passport size because
Yeah.
they were completely sold out everywhere. And I was like, if I
They're
can get,
so cute.
yeah, and I just did. And I was just literally going there for this one thing. And I'm happy I did because I
Mhm.
also went back on the last day and
Mhm.
they're completely wiped out. Like they didn't
Oh,
really
yeah.
almost anything.
Yeah. The Travelers Company table has a lot of unique offerings that can be hard or even impossible to find in store or online sometimes. Um, so yeah, that's one of the ones that if there's something that I want from that table, I definitely put at the top of the list. Along with Nagasawa, like I'm really fond of Kobe inks. So I know that some of their inks are harder to get your hands on, and I haven't personally got any of their exclusive pens. Like they'll have Sailor make some pens for them and things like that. But those go quick too. So yeah, definitely have to be organized.
And then my other one was I conquered, divided and conquered with, the things that I thought I might want. And I was like, okay, if it's there the last day of the show, it's meant to be.
There you go. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely a way to do it when on those kind of things that you're on the fence about. It's kind of like, okay, well, if it's still there, then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. And have you decided what shows are you going to next year? So in 2026.
Yeah, so ironing them out still, but we're planning on being at the California Pen Show,
Hmm.
and Yoseka is having their stationery fest for
Hmm.
2026.
What
So
months is it in? Is it in the summer? Is it in the spring this
yeah,
year?
I believe it's the end of July or beginning of August.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they had that 2 years ago. I mean, it'll be 2 years in the summertime, but
Hmm.
it was a really good show. I really liked it. I think they did a great job for it being the first year. It felt very curated, which I
Hmm.
really enjoyed because and I don't think this is a negative thing necessarily, but
Right.
with a lot of pen shows, you get a lot of, diversities. And sometimes there's tables that maybe you don't have much interest in or something like that. But I think they had a smaller space, relatively speaking, to work with. So I
Hmm.
think they were very purposeful in who they invited and accepted to be vendors because of that. But it actually made for a really terrific show because there was such a good representation, especially of, you know, kind of an international market, something similar to what you get at like San Francisco Pen Show. They have a lot of international vendors, which is always really fun. So I think my favorite takeaway from Yoseka was Hanabi Glass was there, so I got a dip pen from Lucas, and I'm really really fond of that dip pen. I think he does great work. There are a lot of other treasures I got there too, but I think that's one that I really felt like it kind of got the spotlight from my haul. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You know what else I was thinking of? Because I keep on forgetting, but San Francisco is launching the new stationery.
Yeah.
Fest as
Yeah.
well
Yes.
in March, I think.
Yeah, that's on our list too. And it'll be so curious to see how that goes. My understanding is, you know, the San Francisco Pen Show is extremely busy.
Mm,
So I think what their approach is if they kind of divide the following a little bit of fountain pen versus stationery, that things will be a little bit more tame. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But in from what I've seen of stationery shows so far, there's always a nice representation of fountain pen brands and fountain pen accessories.
yeah,
It's just that the focus is a little bit more on stationery
yeah.
than the diverse offerings of fountain pens being like vintage and modern and makers and that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
And
So,
if Corolla is here, she's the one who told me about it, so she knows
okay,
a bit more. She can let us know in the
yeah,
chat
chime
there.
in. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, because I was thinking about it and I was looking around because they're still building up some things, I think, on the website. They're looking
mhm,
for people to teach, so they're going to be workshops. And I was also wondering because I don't think they want too much of like fountain pens in general there. But I wonder if they will have like a lot more inks, say, stuff like that out there.
yeah. I would think so. I mean, that's definitely what I saw from the Yoseka Stationery Fest. Is it was pretty well rounded. Like, there were still fountain pen brands there, just not as many.
Hmm.
And the majority is stationary, but there was still a lot of ink. Like, even Robert Oster had a booth there. They weren't selling their inks, but it was just a swatch and play. Like, they had all their inks set up and they had swatch cards that everyone could try and things like that. And Kobe Nagasawa was there too. I'm trying to think what other ink brands specifically, but there was a good representation of ink for sure. So, and of course, Coffee Monster Co. was there too, which was another
Mm.
big hype for people. But yeah,
I would imagine they're probably going to come back to this one too. I'm also thinking that's a place for journals. So if you're really into journaling and like journals specifically like leather bound, that could be very fun too.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, or like stamping and stickers and papers, all that kind of thing.
All right. Here you go, Corolla. Thank you. All right. So the pen show will be more fountain pen oriented. So that's end of August. And the stationery vendors are going to be mostly in March. So we'll see how that goes. And,
Yeah,
I'm considering going. I might not. We'll see. But I know you're going. So you'll let us know how it goes.
yeah. I mean, even aside from being a vendor, I think even as a attendee, I'm always so curious about when there's new shows. And because it's going to be run by the same people that do San Fran, which is one of my favorite shows. So I'm like, I have the confidence it'll be a good event.
Yeah. So Corolla says that it's a good thing to separate. I think the San Francisco Pen Show, granted, it was my first time. It's just
Mhm.
huge,
Yeah,
really is big. And I think time wise, so one of the biggest problems is my co-host on the podcast that we do with Kari and Alexandra Kari. She just can't make it then because she's a teacher at school. So it's just kind of that time of the year. If you're a teacher or a student, you just start school. So it might be a little tricky to get to the
yeah,
pen show. But that way, if it's in March, then it might be a possibility for people to like at least get some good stationery.
yeah, yeah. And I don't even think it's like the largeness of the offerings of the show that's the issue. It's the largeness of the amount of people that are coming. Like, that's the problem, right? It's just like out of
It's a good thing, but
control.
it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So that can be very overwhelming too, and just difficult to navigate, quite frankly. So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, I see that. Aw, Corolla. Kari needs to come to West Coast show. Yeah, she does. She does. So the problem of, us being all over the place, I still have not met any of them in person. And I've known Alexandra for many years now.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we've met. Alexandra and I met, oh my God, like maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, about 4 years ago. So it's been a while. We've been kind of online friends for a while, but we've never ever met. And we do talk a lot, but still haven't met. And Kari, I've never met before the
Okay,
show.
got it. Yeah. Oh,
So,
how interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So I met Kari for the first time because I took her workshop in Cambridge this year. She had a journaling workshop. And Alexandra I met at Scriptus for the first time last year. And then I've seen her at a couple shows like the Empire show and the Scriptus again this year. So but I haven't had like time to spend with either of them just like to hang out. It's just kind of like a meet like by the way at a event. So yeah.
Yeah, if we all get together, we gotta schedule a time together.
Yes.
But
Definitely.
also, Alexandra gotten so popular with people. I don't know if we can get her alone for a long time. But it's a good thing. I'm very happy that it's going good for her.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and how was the Empire? Because that was the first time they had a show, right, in New York in a long time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I guess they used to have a New York show quite some time ago, and it's been a lapse of time since they haven't. And this is a new location because then they had it prior when they used to have a show. So I think as an attendee, I liked it. It was well spaced out, not very crowded as far as how they positioned the room and the tables. But I don't know that that will be consistent necessarily. It could be that it just was roomy because it was the first year.
Mhm. Right.
And as the show grows, it could get cozier.
Sure.
But they had a good rounded amount of offerings there. There were lots of pens. There was a good representation of stationery there, and I really liked that they had some craft vendors as well. So there were a couple leather um, vendors there, which I always think is really cool. Um, Most of us are perhaps at some of the bigger shows familiar with seeing like Gailyn Leather. They weren't at this show, but there were some independent leather makers there.
Nice.
So it's really cool to see their work. Some of the products were fountain pen oriented, but not necessarily. Some of them there were like wallets or glasses cases and things like that, or like a traveler's notebook cover, that they
Mhm.
made, things like that. Um,
Alternative cover.
yeah, yeah. Which, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of a hot take on my end is I really like Traveler's Company, but I do not care for their covers. I like the quality of the leather, like the way it feels and the way it looks, but I
Mhm.
find them to be too small. I don't do well with my
Mm.
pages sticking out of the cover. To me, it's like that's the
Mhm.
whole point of a cover is to cover my interior pages. So that kind of I think if you just do like one or two inserts, you're totally golden on that. But once you
Yeah.
do more than two, the pages start to like kind of the notebooks start to push out a bit. So
You might be a Paper Republic girl then, because I have both, and it's very interesting. I have three, oh my God, there's so many. Three Travelers covers that are standard,
mhm,
and I found their leather quality very different in all three of them.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
And it's not bad.
Mhm.
It's just so I really like, that's why I went for that red cover they released, because I've had that one first and I've had it for a while and I've buffed it and it's been around the place and it really is holding up beautifully. And I also have Paper Republic XL in chestnut,
Okay.
and that leather is the same kind of similar quality, but it holds really really well and you can work with it, and I think it's gonna, like, you're gonna be like able to cover it, and and buff it out and stuff like that. And it's just like that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then there was one cover I really wanted, so I got it. It was with Moomin. So I grew up like Moomin
Oh,
Troll. It was like normal childhood for me, and so I was like, I loved it. I wanted my wellness journal for myself. So I found this, someone got the Moomin Troll journal and didn't want it. So I got it for a very good price. So
nice.
travel is a book. And I was so excited for it because it's like that weird color of olive, which is brown, and with like a little embossed thing on it of movements. And so I got it and I was so excited about it. And then I realized I cannot ever take it outside the house
Oh, yeah.
because the leather it's wonderful and it just feels so good. But it's one of those things that it's going to be hard to kind of keep it, without a blemish because
Yeah.
one of the leathers is a little, like kind of like different feel to it that if
Mhm.
you take a leather buffer to it, it's just going to lose it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not going to, it's nothing is going to happen to it as in like you're not going to make it bad, but there is that kind of layer to that leather that it's just going to be lost, if that
Yeah.
makes. And that was my kind of disappointment. And I mean, I'm not disappointed in a journal, it's just like I can't take it with me outside the house. I feel at least that way. So yeah, I feel like that's my whole experience with travelers. I don't mind the size. I just I think Paper Republic has been a little bit more consistent for me when it comes
Okay.
to specific leathers they use, but
Mhm.
it's not a bad thing,
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard
preference.
that too, just different, textures, I guess, of leather in
Yeah.
the different colors and things like that, or even the same color. The one I feel like that about is I got a plotter,
Mm.
and I picked it up secondhand, which is really nice, and it's a Nagasawa exclusive, so it's like this roughed up, kind of nude colored leather. It's really lovely, but that's how I feel about that one. Like, I'm not to the point where I'm comfortable taking it out. It's definitely like a home, um, notebook, you know? So, I don't know if I'll kind of become more comfortable with taking it out. It's just one of those things that you don't want to get dirty,
Mhm.
or like roughed up or anything, because it's just really nice as is. So, at least at this point, I'm only planning on keeping it at my desk and not having it to venture out.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least in my case, I am designated as it as something that I intended to fill out at home anyway.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
so that works.
yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yes, Chris. Yeah, I agree with you. So Excel, Paper Republic Excel, and I have it here, but I have to stretch and look for it. Sorry. But I'm gonna show it to you guys. Oh, here. So
Oh
this
yeah.
is mine.
Okay.
And Chris is right. So there are some books that fit in here and some don't. Moleskin and what is it? Leuchtturm. They both fit in here. So like whatever the standard journals. And then yeah, it's interesting. You have to like really measure. I would take it with me. I mean, I take it with me anyway. But if I'm in the store and I want to buy something for inside, I don't like their inserts.
Okay.
So yeah, I find them to be a little more expensive than they need to be. So, why not to go with something else? But just keep in mind that then you have to kind of like measure it because Chris is right. They don't really.
I love your charm too. The
Oh,
charms that you've been
yeah.
making. That's so cute.
Oh yeah, because it's like it's a small version of
Yeah.
the actual palette.
Yes. I love it. I like the one that you made too that looks like a stamp.
Oh, all right.
Did you actually use, like, a wax seal stamp to make that? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
cool.
some of them are 200 years old. Like that's from my collection.
Yeah,
Hmm.
somewhere you mentioned that, I don't know if it was on Instagram or YouTube, but I was like, "How cool." That's totally something that I would love to, but have not,
Oh, it's
I guess
another
I never really
expensive
thought of it,
hobby.
but yeah.
It's an expensive hobby. I was talking to someone. If he's watching, he'll back me up. But we were talking about which one is more expensive, the pens or the seals.
Are the seals really that much? Wow, okay.
Historic stuff. Historic
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
But not, not the modern. But historic
Yeah.
ones, there are some that are so rare because a lot of them were made for royal families or,
Oh, I see, okay.
they're very singular. It's not a lot of them. Some of them were made, is particularly in 19th century. There are some that you can find a lot of because there were like four kind of white collar workers of the time, and they were like kind of fancy but not that fancy, and they were like
Okay.
more mainstream, and you can still find those a lot, but also those can be pretty pricey, but it makes for a fun kind of, will I find it, will I not,
Yeah.
type of game, because I'm, like, when you look for these things, but also for me it's also secondhand Italian pens, and just pens in general, like it's always, you have your heart set on something, but it's okay to let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, the main thing in all of these hobbies, I feel like, especially if we buy secondhand.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I really enjoy, um, being able to pick up pens secondhand very much. So,
Yeah, and we're going to talk about
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
All right, so from one hobby to the next one, which is Italian pens.
Yes.
Yep. And so we connected because of that. And you have one of the pens in a beautiful material that not a lot of people have. And also the brand that a lot of people are not weirdly familiar with. Have you been noticing that when you talk about Italian pens, not a lot of people know about Stipula?
Yeah, I think so. I've also gotten a lot of comments, like, from a video that I put up on it saying, like, "Oh, I'm surprised you know about this brand," which was surprising to me. Um, but it kind of makes sense because I don't feel like they do a lot of marketing, nor do they have a big representation at shops or at shows. But I think anyone who has a love for Italian pens at some point comes across Stipula.
I actually, to that point, I had to check on their website if they're still making pens because I have not heard from them in, I think,
Yeah.
a year, and
Okay.
their Instagram is just not really active.
Okay. Yeah. They are though, right?
They are.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah, it's too bad that they're not really going with the times to make sure that there's awareness of their brand because they do have some very beautiful pens.
Yeah. And I think so for me, discovery, and I'll show you, I've discovered they made their in-house nibs a lot, and they've made nibs for other companies.
Oh, okay.
So I think the bulk of their business also comes from there. And that's why they don't necessarily need to release, my theory is, they don't need to release pens constantly because of that
Yeah.
potential stuff.
So, do you know what other who they make nibs for?
Yes, I actually have finally gotten one of the pens I was looking at for a while. So I guess let's do it. Let's share some pens.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my two of my Italian cases here. So I had to find them. And okay. Whoop.
Ooh.
Yay. Okay. So everything that is stipula related is up until here.
Oh, wow, nice.
And so what you and I were just talking. Oh, hello, Lau. Hello,
Hi,
hello.
love.
And so a couple years ago, I found out that Chopard or whatever you pronounce them, they actually made fountain pens or had them for sale for a while. I think they still do. And then I found out Stipula made their nibs.
Okay. Wow.
I had no idea, and it's a great one. It is slightly different than stipula, like feed. The feed is different than what
Okay.
stipulas have. So my theory is just like with the case of Cartier. So Cartier bought nibs from Montblanc, and then they would kind of finish them in house.
Okay.
So both of these companies are jewelry companies. So my guess is that this is exactly what happens too. They bought nibs, but they would like finish them and actually do everything else in house.
Interesting. Okay. Hmm.
So Chopard or whatever you pronounce it, I never know. I'm sorry. Is another I feel like very overlooked pen because of that. Because I don't think people even know that it exists, but it's a very nice writer. So yeah.
Very nice. So what nib size do you have on there?
So this is just a medium. I think they
Okay.
only had fines and mediums, and it's like
Ah,
this
okay.
super nice writing kind of medium and cursive on there. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful.
Very nice. And what general year or decade would that have been from?
You know, this was not very long ago. I believe this was like right before 2020, something around
Okay.
2020.
So actually quite modern, yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is why I'm laughing. This is going to be with my stipulas, but no one really recognizes. Um,
Nice.
all right. So these are my stipulate Trurias. So 3 of these. And then
Now, do any of your Etrurias, are any of them the newer version that have the threads down toward where the nib is instead of upper toward the grip section?
that's a good question. I don't think I have anything.
Like
These
that.
two are the newer ones.
Okay.
So this is the faceted one. I really like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this one does.
Okay. So that's something that's on my lookout list because I think I would find that even more comfortable.
Yeah.
Um and are do you know, do they make those for cartridge converters and piston both?
I think this is my only faceted, and from the videos I've seen around and pictures, I think it's faceted. I think if someone knows better than I do, they've only done piston fills
Okay.
faceted. I've
Okay.
never really seen them.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think they
the faceted is so beautiful. I mean, I really like faceted pens, especially if they're Italian.
oh,
So
this
they're
was
just
another
very
one.
lovely.
This was another one that
Okay.
is slightly different, duetto. But this one is older. I think this is 2012.
Mhm.
So if you can get one of these, this is very fun. Cartridge converter.
Mhm.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
But it's a funny one because it kind of opens up halfway through the battery.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
Very
yeah,
nice.
uh, I'm a fan.
And what kind
Oh,
of nibs do you have on those?
this one is I think 0.9, I believe.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And this is a Flex, so
Okay.
somewhat flexy nib, I guess we can call it. And this one used to be abroad, but Annabelle, San Francisco, made this. She called it a stubbish italic, so it's on the broader side
Okay.
italic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this.
Nice.
And yeah, my most treasured one, I think you know it, is this one, and it's
Oh,
a
yeah, that one's gorgeous.
yours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think, the band is just so charming on those.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see here. This is my one and only.
Okay, so let me show that together with you. So these are the acrylics, not acrylics, celluloids that are very prized. And yours is known, I think they called it the pizza celluloid, which I thought was so funny. And mine is the amber.
Okay, yeah,
And so these both are Etrurias.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I love this is one of my most um favored pens aesthetically, I would say. And I love, of course, the celluloid because um there's nothing quite like it still.
Mm-hmm.
Um it has a certain chatoyance and depth and brilliance to it, I think. I like this one because it has that red and orange, and then there's little veins of kind of a vibrant green, just sparingly. But then the hardware is silver,
Mm-hmm.
sterling silver, and then it's etched with the stipula. I don't know if they're meant to be leaves, but it,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It's, what's it called? Like a straw, I guess.
Hmm.
Symbol. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the Volterra, and my threads are past the grip section. That's how I think they originally did it. And I have to say, for as much as I love this pen, the things that I don't care for so much is one, that it does have a tendency for the cap to kind of loosen,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't like ever a disaster or anything like that. It's just kind of a lack of attention to detail on the finishing part. I'm not really sure technically what they have to do
Welcome
so
to
that that
Italian
doesn't
pens.
happen, but it's just one of those things that, like, I don't like to over tighten my pens. I'm very careful about that always, especially if you have like something that's celluloid. So I am very careful not to over tighten when I'm finished using it. But then when you get it again and you can feel that the lid has, or the cap rather, has kind of loosened a bit, is kind of annoying. And for me, my grip is a little bit sensitive, I guess. And I do find the threads a little bit sharp or unpleasant when I rest my fingers on them to write for
Yeah.
extended writing.
No, that's why you asked about this. You might,
Yeah.
yeah, might work for you then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I finally got to see one of those in person at the Empire Show, the ones with the threads toward the front. And I did find that way more comfortable. Because I don't really, my fingers don't slide down toward the nib when I'm writing. I'm usually further back. So it's kind of, it depends on the person's grip style, but that would work really well for me. But I mean, if this had it, that would be a one and done for me because I love everything about this pen otherwise. This one is a cartridge
Yeah.
converter. So that's how that one works. And this originally came, I still have the nib, but it originally came with a bicolored 18 karat gold nib that's a 1.3.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that ground to an italic by Masuyama,
Nice.
which I really like. But being a 1.3, it's not a nib size that you would use for regular writing or reach for often.
Yeah.
So as lovely as that is, it's not my everyday nib for
Mm-hmm.
this pen. So I was able to pick up secondhand this is a branded stipula titanium nib, and it's one of the flex ones,
Mm-hmm.
which is bouncy in reality. But they come as kind of like a fine medium. So likewise with this one, years ago when I first got it, I had it ground by Masuyama to an extra fine. So now I enjoy that a lot more. And a lot of times with my flex nibs, modern flex nibs that are
Mm-hmm.
bouncy, I don't often flex them, but I do enjoy the unique writing experience that you get from having
Yeah.
something that's marked as a modern flex. Like it kind of feels like a little Italian sports car.
Yes, and I was about to say the flex that we're kind of know about is the Yovo flex, and it's a very very different flex. Like what you said, stipula, that Flex nibs that they have, and their titaniums, very different experience. And I
Yeah.
feel like I've never had that experience with any other nib, just possibly because they make them in house as well. A lot of their nibs. I wonder.
Mhm.
It just feels different
Yeah.
than others.
Yeah.
And I wanted to respond to Lau. Lau happens to my vintage Mont Blanc. The caps are loose, kind of loose for some reason, but it's only from like 1980s Mont Blanc,
Mm.
which is so interesting. And I have not had that experience with any of my stipulas. So,
Yeah.
and yes, oh, champagne. So champagne is a very interesting, beautiful color of their material.
Mhm.
It breaks to dry. So what is, Chris, what is the nib size? And is it a gold nib? What is it? And I'm just curious. I've never had that problem, but I've heard that. So one of my pens, actually this one, I bought it on Amazon. So Amazon had these deals, and you could buy it really cheaply.
Mhm.
And I'm not a fan of demonstrators. And I think probably they were struggling to sell these as demonstrators. And I just scored it for really cheap.
Nice.
And but this nib was a little odd. So
Okay.
I have to probably bring it to a nibmeister. But this one is like weirdly dry. But it's like
Yeah.
14 karat gold nib that is definitely, I don't remember what size it was, but oh, medium is like
Yeah.
wouldn't happen.
So speaking to nibs being too dry when you get them new, and it doesn't really matter what the brand is or if it's gold or steel or whatnot, but when you get a nib that writes too dry, I think the first thing to attempt is pairing it with a wet ink.
Mm,
Right? Because that's kind of like a troubleshooting thing that might at least buy you some time until you can decide what to do from there. But if you find that the wet ink addresses, okay, it's a fine.
yeah,
So yeah,
which
it
makes
might
more
tend to
sense.
be
Yeah.
more in that area of challenge. But if that helps, or if that seems to more or less address the problems, then like at least you've kind of accommodated the issue with that nib. But the other thing to look into, of course, too, is depending on what you're comfortable with, is getting it to a nibmeister either by mail or in person, depending on what you're able to do. Or again, depending on your comfort level, you might choose to um, do some tuning yourself. I don't know if you ever do tuning yourself or not, Marina, but
Micro mesh.
yeah,
Okay. I have a couple, just I'm familiar with that through ceramics, and specifically because I work with porcelain. So I have very fine micro meshes around. Depends on the pen for me.
yeah, yeah,
Because, if it's my Mont Blancs, if it's my really kind of precious to me, mostly gold nibs, but there are also steel nibs, it doesn't matter. I would probably outsource
yeah,
rather than do it myself. But yeah, no, totally. And some things are really easy to fix.
yeah, mm, yeah. I've seen videos on YouTube from creators like Penboy Roy and I think SBRE Brown that address how to make a nib write more wet, and it
Mhm.
includes a brass shim. Um, and it's relatively um, you need patience to do it and a little bit of fine motor skills. But if you're
Mhm.
comfortable with the concept of that, even practicing on something that's not so, um, you know, expensive, I guess. But also, like, I've taken a nib tuning workshop. So they kind of start you with some steel nibs and you start getting familiar with how to manipulate the tines and things like that, which is really helpful. I think for a lot of people that use fountain pens, it would be a really nice skill to have in your back pocket just to be able to just do simple
Hmm.
general tunings, things like this. Like, it's too wet, it's too dry, the tines are misaligned. So that's another one that I encountered a lot, um, especially earlier in my fountain pen journey,
Yeah.
whether they came like that or I did it by
It
accident,
could
especially
it
when
could
you're
be
first
in
learning to
transit.
flex.
Yeah.
Say again, sorry.
I'm saying it could be in transit, something can
Yeah,
happen and it's actually not as major. I think that's the main thing. When you receive the pen and you open it and you've been looking forward to it for a long time. You either looked for this pen for a long time, especially if it's secondhand, right? It's a bit of a gamble. And then it just comes out not as
yeah,
perfect as you imagined.
yeah.
And I wanted to address Chris. Chris is like, I hope Philip Lansdale comes to Vienna. So I feel like that's another why Go to Pen Show is great choice, because if you are able to do this in person with the Nibmeister, it's very quick. And a lot of times they have just like a very long lists and you might be waiting on your pen for like 2 months. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely if you can do it in person, it's a far superior experience than mailing it in. Um, but when I was early in my hobby and I don't know if I didn't know of shows or I just hadn't gone to any, but I definitely did mail in some pens, and it's kind of stressful, especially if it's like the stipula I did mail in. So it was kind of unideal in that of course, there's more expense. You have to pay for the shipping there and back.
mm,
And with the pen that's more valuable like that, you have to add on a considerable amount to cover the insurance there and back.
yeah.
And then the Nibmeister work itself, of course. So it does really add up. And then the experience of doing it in person, they can attune it to you right there in like right in front of you. You pass the pen back and forth and you get to try it and make sure that um it's good for you. So
Okay, Chris, you'll probably have to go to Netherlands. I'm sorry. It's the same for me. If I go to Northern Europe, my only choice, because I'm originally from Northern Europe, so for me, my choices are London, Netherlands, and Madrid. And I think that's it. I'm not familiar with anything else. It is what it is.
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about your Italian pens and also your odd experiences with Italian pens since we're talking about it.
Uh, what do you mean odd specifically? Because I can go to a lot of directions with that.
Visconti.
Oh yeah.
I have an odd Visconti too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can give like an overview of my Italian collection because I have them all out.
Ooh.
So we've talked about I have one stipula, and I really love that pen a lot. And then I have next in line, I suppose, would be Peniter. So I bought a Peniter Avatar, I believe it was. Originally, it's like the entry level that you can get their quill nib.
I have it.
And once I got that and tried it, yeah, there you go. I wanted to just experience if I liked the quill nib because I'd heard a lot about it. It's a gorgeous nib. I don't know if you can honestly find like a nib that's more beautifully designed.
Mhm.
So I decided to get the entry level, like the easiest way to get a quill to experience. And I was able to pick one up secondhand, which was fantastic, and it was in good condition and everything. And after having it, I decided I definitely liked it. And I wanted to find a peniter that was more um something a little more girthy and more of a colorway that was suited to my personal preference. The one I got was the Neptune blue. So it's pretty, but it's not really like a colorway that speaks to me particularly. So then and I had no problem with that pen. That it wrote beautifully. Then I picked up
Mm.
this peniter.
Oh, that's cool.
It's supposed to be quote unquote celluloid,
Uh-huh.
but I cannot find information that clearly states that. So that was kind of rough because when I purchased it, purchased it in person at a show. And so they're like, oh yeah, it's celluloid. And I mean, it looks like celluloid, it really does.
It really does,
But
yeah.
but then when I look at like the product sheets,
We lost Gailyn for a little bit. You're
that
back? You froze for a little bit there. Oh. All right, you guys. We might need to wait. Okay, you're back.
I'm back. Okay, sorry about
Yes.
that. um, so yeah. Now I have a love-hate relationship with this peniter. This is the Antici Materiali, Ruffles Gold. And it has a cool nib, which is why I wanted to get it. And it's beautiful. Like it's a lot more elevated, I would say, than the entry level one. But this is my second one, and the cap starts getting so tight that it's magnetic and it doesn't recap properly.
Mm-hmm. So it dries
So
out.
yeah, it's the second time that that's happened, unfortunately.
But the grip is, so this is the one you used to have, but in a different color. Yeah, your grip is much better. So I have fatigue with this one. I like it a lot. As you said, I actually think maybe because of this grip and how this works perfectly, I've never heard people complain about this model drying
Yeah,
out, but I have heard about yours. My friend Lori was on with me the other day, and it's the same with her pen because I think she had similar to yours.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same model. I don't think she has the same capping problem as mine has. I think it dries out. It's not well sealed. Which I've had that experience as well. So it's really unfortunate, like that you go from an entry level one for the quill and it works really nicely. And then you are like, okay, I really like this. I'm going to invest significantly more to get something more um, to your liking. And then it's such a disappointment. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. And that was kind of how I felt when I started hearing, I had this such a good experience with Peniter, my first Peniter pen, and it was my first Italian pen in a while that I bought
okay.
too. And I was like, I wonder, I wonder why. And then it kind of makes sense. I think the innovation, there is a cost to innovation as well, right? Because they're like, that's what they're known for, that they've done this, different nib, that they've done something slightly out of the box here and there. But I think that's definitely the cost of innovation there. So,
Yeah. One of my biggest challenges with these pens, though, like Stipula and Peniter, is especially when you're going into this rank of pen that's more of an investment piece, is
mm-hmm.
it's a shame that one, they don't have ebonite feeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know why more companies don't use inner caps. Like
Yeah.
you see something as simple as a platinum preppy that has, a plastic or silicone inner cap to help with these issues of making sure that it's an airtight seal. And then you have these pens that are hundreds of dollars, like getting into a grand, and they don't even bother. It's bewildering to me.
Oh, should I finally? Actually, I just don't find this pen Visconti Homo sapiens, the only one I probably will have. I don't hate it. I actually think this one has a great capping mechanism and, stuff. What I don't like, mine is secondhand and it has sealing problems. So I have to redo kind of like take out the nib and figure it out. I don't visually like how this part is so bulbous, and I also don't like the clip. But that's my personal preference.
Yeah.
I think that is a cool innovation they came out with, and it's interesting. But that's the story. Okay, mine is secondhand, which I expect when you buy secondhand, you expect some sort of, potential things happening that is different because this is not out of the box.
Yeah.
But there's so many stories about Viscontis, how people buy them in out of the box. It's just not performing well.
Yeah, and there's some things that are maybe somewhat expected when you buy a secondhand pen. There may be some wear and tear. The nib might be not ideal because you don't know how the previous user was treating that pen. But there's other things that really shouldn't have issues. So, like, going back to Visconti, I got a secondhand one also. Homo sapiens. It was the colored one. So it was the sand colored. And it didn't cap properly, and the vac filling mechanism didn't suction properly either, meaning like you operate it and I measured how much ink it took up and it wasn't the amount that it was supposed to hold. And it didn't have that click, like on the Pilot 823, like when you click the vac, it like pops kind of. This
Mhm.
was just like a little puff. Like it was something was happening wrong with the piston mechanism on that. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I've never heard that, Chris. I've never seen the stipula with the ebonite feed,
No,
which
I
is
haven't
very
either.
interesting. So that made me curious. Might put it on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but also you and I both have tried brands of Italian pens that you want to try, and I have tried, you haven't, and vice versa.
Yes.
We have experiences with that. And one of those brands you have, and you have both positive and negative experiences, was the Aurora.
Yes. Yeah. So I have Aurora is a brand that I have stumbled into this year. Although technically I started last year, but I really went for it this year. So here are my 3 Auroras. So I have 2 Optimas and 188. So this
Nice.
is the first one that I got. And it's a 365 brown. So this is a numbered edition. And I picked this up secondhand. And right away, I was like, the nib is really something special. And it's one of the most comfortable pens. The girth is really nice, but also you can't even feel the threads. And the step down or step up transition is really minimal. So I think for all those reasons, I find it very comfortable in the hand. But I really think their nibs are really something special. This is an older um, Aurora.
Mm.
I don't really. I probably have it documented what year it's from, probably, but I don't know it off the top of my head. But it's several years anyway. And the the most recent one I got, which is the Volterra, I did buy that new, and I didn't have a great experience with the nib on this one originally. It was an extra fine, and um, it wasn't writing super great, but also my resin, the Auraloid, had a crack in it.
No.
So talking about like disappointing experiences, like you buy it new and then it comes with a defect that was missed by quality control. So like I sent it back to be repaired, and that took several months. So yeah, that was kind of a rocky experience. Um,
Yeah, still sounds better than Visconti, because at least you had a good experience,
Yeah, no,
for
I
that.
mean, yeah, and I think that at least in my experience, the not so recent auroras are better. I think something has changed with their nib specialist
Mm.
or whoever does their nibs, and I think that I've had better experiences with the older nibs versus the newer nibs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but they're very nice nibs, and I'm quite partial to the flex nibs on these two, which also are, I would say, a bouncy or responsive nib, but not like, vintage flex by any
Yeah.
means. But like this is the kind of an indigo purple color, the viola.
Yeah.
So that's the middle one that I got. I picked this up secondhand as well. And I mean, that's the really nice thing about secondhand pens is you're kind of giving a pen that someone isn't interested or isn't using anymore a second life, because now it's being used and appreciated and valued. And likewise, if I get to the point where, um, I've already thought of getting another Aurora, and I'm like, okay, if I get another one though, I'd probably let go of one of the ones I have, um, instead of just getting another one. But I've really enjoyed Auroras very much.
Yeah.
My one thing that I don't care for with those is their piston, and at least these two models are. And they have an ink window, which is really nice, and they do have an ebonite feed. But when you operate the piston, it has like a different mechanism, which they market as being like an extra ink reservoir. But basically, what it is just the device that goes down. So like the piston basically has a little rubber kind of gasket on it that like pushes the ink down. But the mechanism is designed very differently than other pens because you can see the feed in the ink window. So it kind of like surrounds it and pushes the ink through. And I don't care for it personally. I think it's kind of obnoxious compared to other designs that I think just work more effectively. But yeah, they kind of market it like this really great feature, which I personally just don't find it super handy, or beneficial. But other than that, I've really enjoyed my Auroras. I really do think that the writing experience on those nibs are very nice. And again, like the older ones, I remember trying an extra fine at a show. It was one of the most delightful writing experiences I've ever had with a nib. It had like a superb amount of feedback to it that was just very lovely. But from what I've experienced from the newer ones, it did not feel that way anymore.
Hmm.
So I don't really know what transition they're going through, but it's kind of, it seems very hit and miss right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that Lao had an interesting experience too. And I think
Hmm.
exactly with the either Cremona or exactly the same pen that you had interesting experience with. I don't remember anymore. So he definitely would back you up with
Yeah,
your theory that older pens, older nibs are more problem free, if
yeah,
we can say that.
yeah. And so some people have mentioned like, right now that it seems like the quality control is kind of off, that it might be beneficial to buy it in person. And I agree. I think allows, as I recall, like the tines were not split centered. That's something that a Nibmeister can't fix. That's a total
Yeah.
like quality control, send it back issue. Um, versus if you get something that's scratchy or misaligned, it's unfortunate. I really think that it's a big pet peeve of mine that if you're buying a fountain pen in this bracket, that the quality control should be there, and you should be able to get a great experience right out of the box. Like it should be there. So I
Absolutely.
feel like it's very unfortunate when that's not the case. But it
Yeah.
seems to be, I've heard that in general about a lot of Italian pens. Like they're very beautiful, the designs are amazing, the materials are gorgeous. But if there's any issue, it's the lack of quality control.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel. And that's talking about the brand you haven't tried yet, but I definitely want you to try is Centini. And I feel like I've had pretty good experience, but even with them, I've heard people having had some weird experiences. So I only have two, and they're kind of like similar, but they're different. This is a cartridge converter, and then this is a piston fill. And I think the good thing is that all of the Centinis, except for the cheapest, two cheapest versions do not come with ebonite, but everything else does. So this is the
Oh, I
one.
didn't know that.
This is the cheapest one they make. So this is Toscana, which is my go-to, like take with me on the road because cartridge. And I also like it. It's just like it's what you were looking, right? With the threads being close to here. And so this is the step up one with ebonite already. So this is slightly bit more expensive,
Okay.
but has an ebonite feed. And I
Yeah.
have the reverse architect on here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they have really great nib options.
Opinion. Anything over $100 should be perfect out of the box. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say preferably even under that because I feel like the discussion for me is a lot of people who just start with fountain pens, they get that fountain pen that is much cheaper than $100. And if they have a negative experience straight away, it might turn them away. So that's kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah. And there were, yep, okay, yeah. So William likes Santini's. I kind of told him to get
Hi,
one,
William.
and he got some too. Yeah, they're just very different, and they make their nibs in house, and that's the fun part. And I think Auroras make their nibs in house, don't they?
Yes, they do. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I believe Aurora, like everything is made in house on the entire pen, which is really great. But that's another reason what I really like Italian pens is a lot of them do offer in-house made nibs, which I think is exceptional.
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So the story with Santini is the guy bought a dormant old company, the company that went dormant in 1978. And so he bought Ancora. And so this is Ancora from when Santini owned the company.
Okay.
So this is the same machine that he uses for his nibs now, basically. But this is Ancora before he sold it on to a different owner outside of Italy.
Okay.
But he has everything. He has the machinery, and so he, makes on the same machine. He makes these, which I think is so neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I from the first time I heard about the Centinis, I've been very intrigued by them. And I've um many times contemplated getting one, but I think it's the combination of not being sure which model that I would like that would be comfortable in the hand for me, and um, they've had some really beautiful. They release materials frequently, and they're kind of small batch. So lots of gorgeous ebonites, and they've had some small drops of celluloid too. Like I think it was last year they dropped the royal blue that like Omos has used in the past, celluloid, which was very tempting. But I think I saw Centini once at DC, but they only weirdly when I went by the table, they only had one model out, and it was the larger one. Is it the Libra? Is that the bigger one?
No, I think the one you're thinking of is either faceted giant or giant, and
Yeah,
it's too
yeah,
big.
and it was so big. So I was just like, "Oh, this is too large for me." It's possible they had the other models out later and maybe I was just there too early and they weren't done setting up. I'm not really sure. But it was kind of a bummer because it's not often you would have the chance to try a Centini pen in person.
Mhm.
So I really missed out on that. But yeah, I've been very intrigued by them.
Yeah, I really can't speak highly enough of, and just saying, this used to be their bigger model in Ancora, and this is now considered one of the smallest pens, and it's
Okay.
almost the same size. So I actually, this is the cheapest there is, Toscana. Very much just enjoying it. It actually reminds me a little bit of Stipula, just
Hmm.
because there's something about it that is similar, and because the feed, again, you and I only had the plastic feeds, experience is similar, and like, but it's still a different nib. It's very
Yeah.
hard to explain, but I very much basically suggest just taking a chance on their cheaper pen if you can get it like secondhand or from them directly. They have a lot of discounts these days. So
Yeah. And I haven't seen a whole lot of them on the second-hand market, but I have seen them on occasion. But it's never been a colorway that I felt inclined to get.
mhm.
So I, sometimes you get pens and you're okay not getting a colorway that's to you specific because it's kind of a starting place to try a brand or something like that. But I just feel like if I got a Centennial, I'd have a hard time letting it go. So
Yeah.
I kind of rather just get something that I enjoy. I would love to try one in person, though. I think that would be um, very helpful to figure out, like, how they feel in the hand and
Yeah.
experience their nibs. But I really love how many nib offerings that they have. I think that's
Hmm.
amazing.
And they have them in three different, also like carat wise, and like three different options. They have 14, 18, and 21.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
you
really
can
great. I mean,
upgrade.
who else does that? It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. And so William says the giant 8 is way too big, even
Yeah.
for a lot of people, but he's good for him. But like you have to like have bigger hands and
Yeah.
like bigger pens, basically. But
Yeah.
I think they're great value,
Mhm.
especially now, right? With stuff being so much more expensive. And you just forwarded me the message from the Italian pens that they're now selling Santini in the US. I think it was
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think William just mentioned that too, which is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting for me to also, like, I looked at the ones that they offer, and the funny enough, most of their pens they started offering through Italian pens are italianpens.com are bigger size pens as well, which is so interesting. But I mean, it's not bad, but I feel like maybe, there are not too many people considering small pens.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. You know what else? Oh, you mentioned Omas. You
Yes.
have any Omas? You have a beautiful Omas, I think.
Yeah, I have one. It's a vintage, I think, possibly the 90s, so not like super vintage, but it's a dama or lady, and it's in this really lovely red celluloid.
Nice.
Um, I got this again because it was the easiest way to get my hands on an original Omos at a very approachable, I shouldn't say very, at an approachable price. Because once you get into the Paragons, especially if it's celluloid, and especially like the colored celluloid, not just like the black, the price point jumps huge. So this I picked up secondhand. It's not in great shape,
Mm,
but it's a lovely writer. It's a 18 karat fine, and it is a very nice, very unique, wonderful writing experience. I would definitely get more original Omos pens if um if I could find what I wanted at a reasonable price point, but I think that's asking kind of a lot at this point in the market.
they're pretty. I feel like with the kind of resurrected Omas, the prices for the old pieces gotten really up there, um,
Yeah.
pretty intensely in a few years' time. Um,
Mhm.
Like I have people at the pen club with me in San Francisco that I would talk to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this was, kind of very affordable, and now it's like through the roof,
Yeah.
secondhand." So yeah, you have to be lucky.
And I still think that the style of the Omas pens, like they've kept the style, is very attractive. I really like the look of them. I like the build and all that. I think they're a very beautiful pen. I just have this, I don't know if it's like a loyalty or what it is exactly, like to the original Omas.
Mhm.
Um, I think they've done a nice job of capturing a lot of features, and I think they write nicely like the new Omos, but I still just I don't know what it is exactly that I can't put my finger on, but I just really um still prefer the original Omos.
Yeah, I get you. I have two little pens from the original times.
Okay.
Well, I used to have three. I actually still have three, but one of them is going to be for sale. I'm finally letting it go because
Oh, okay.
it's one of those things. It's been my kind of one of the grails for me for a long time, and I bought it, and I realized then it was not for me.
Okay.
It was just not for me. It's just it's gonna be good with someone who does calligraphy, and I'm not that type of person.
Oh, is it because like it's very flexy or what?
It is made flexier. It
Okay.
was made, so I bought it on the estate at the estate. There are two pens that I bought from the estate of someone, a lawyer, and both pens are at the time grails for me. And
Okay.
one of them is still with me. It was a Pelican, and the other one was Omas. So he had these extremely beautiful pens he never used.
Wow.
Yeah, he bought like I think pretty close to him passing or something. No, I think Pelican he was just keeping because he was in West Germany in at the end of 1980s. So it was kind of like more of a relic for him because
Okay.
of the Berlin Wall and everything. So he just kept that uninked.
What kind of Peloton was that?
And that was M800. So it's one of the first
Oh,
ones ever made.
okay. Yeah.
So that was like a grail for me for that. And then I was so lucky, and his estate had two grails, which and the second
Yeah.
one being Paragon.
Okay. Yeah.
Paragon. And when I got those both pens, and granted, I didn't buy any pens for a long time after that because I was like, oh my God, like I've achieved it. And I was trying to, I was loving the pen that was Omas, but I just found myself not using it
Yeah.
because I'm a faster writer, and it's really made for you
Mhm.
taking your time, and it was made for Spencerian writing
Yeah.
specifically. So it's not my style. And
Right.
after a long time I was like, I have to have to let go of it.
Yeah,
So
I get that.
yeah.
It's nice to have the pens in your collection being used and that fit your style, whether that's aesthetic or for your writing purposes. So I totally get
Mhm.
that, as much as you like that pen, that is if it's not fitting a spot where you're gonna be able to use it, like it's nice to rehome it for someone else to appreciate and to use.
And I feel like that's kind of also how I build my collection. I love to have both things. And I know people who buy pens for their collection just aesthetically.
Yeah.
It's important for them to have that pen, but it's not my case. I
Yeah.
need that practicality. So I ended up with just two pens for now in my collection. And so I think this is Dama too. How big is yours? How big is
Yeah,
your
it's definitely like a pocket-sized.
Mhm. So I think it is a Dama too. So
Let's see, it's, It's about 4.5 inches.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So we both probably
It's
have that.
definitely a pocket size. What I do like is some of these have like a loop and a tassel, like to put on a necklace or something like that, and that's
Yeah.
cool. But I liked that this didn't, because I wouldn't be using it in that fashion anyway. Um, so I'm thinking in the future of, there's a certain celluloid that I've always had my eye out on. So I've gone to shows where I've seen a Dama in that celluloid, and I'm kind of like, it's hard though. It's kind of if I was to get that, I'd rehome this one. So it's a tricky dance, because like, do you buy the one that you would prefer first and then sell it? That way you for sure have it. Or do you like try to sell the one that you would like to rehome before you buy the one that you want to fund the new one? Like, um, I
Yeah.
often struggle with that, because there are definitely pens, kind of like I mentioned the Penider, that I liked it, but I wanted something more specific, and then you kind of have to. I usually try to like sell and then to buy the replacement, if you want to put it that way.
Oh yeah, and my second one before, Minerva, which was also made by
Oh
Omas.
yeah,
This is oversized, which is so funny because this is used to be oversized in 1930s, and this
yeah,
is and it's not that big of a pen because if you
no,
compare this for with the Visconti, this is not an oversized pen
yeah.
whatsoever.
I've heard really good things about the nibs on those, though.
On Minerva, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. This is my biggest recommendation. If you ever come across, get one. So this is one of the best flexes, true flex nibs I have.
yeah, that's what I've heard. I remember looking at one. I'm trying to think of the website that I was 10 Pen. Have you looked at her website before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so she has a lot of Italian vintage for sale. And when I was looking at getting my first Omas, I was looking more vintage than the one I ended up getting, because I really wanted one with a springy, flexy nib, which this one does not have.
Mhm.
And so I remember like researching and looking, and she had a Minerva for sale, and Leticia, who is running 10 Pens, commented, and I've heard other comments that the Minerva had like a really good flex nib.
I have not been to her website, but I have been on her Etsy because she also sells on Etsy. And I was like, oh yeah, Letitia.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
So
think
you got a question. Which celluloid are you looking for?
um
So they had that blue. The blue was nice. And the green. I feel like everyone's after the saft green and then the Arcos.
yeah, it's not the Arco. I don't know why my mind is blanking. Maybe it's trying to protect my information from inquiry and thin out the competition to get that.
You'll see it. You'll
um
know it when you see it.
yeah, and I usually am pretty on it with the names of things, but for some reason it's not surfacing. Sorry, Chris.
All right. So I think you totally have to look for a Minerva.
Yeah. Okay, William.
You know.
Well, if you have one, I mean, whenever
Yeah.
we have the opportunity to meet up, I'll just try yours.
Okay. So she's not preying on your information
No
there.
competition. Okay, let me think. I'll if I think about it without pressure, I think the name will surface, but it's not popping up right now. Give me a minute, and it'll come probably.
All right. You want to
Yeah.
see some more pens if you want to
Oh
think?
yeah, let's do more pens.
So the only Italian pen I have not shown you yet, except for a couple of stipulas. So I have, okay, let me show you the stipulas I didn't show you. So they have these weird gemstone series that I thought were so.
Oh, is it on the clip?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I've seen those.
So I love those. They don't make these. I think these were like 2010 or something. So these are funny, and you can really like buy them pretty cheaply secondhand these days. But the only other Italian pen, I don't know if you have, is the Montegrappa. And this is
Oh, no, I don't. I don't have any Montegrappa.
and that's going back to the ebonite feeds. This one does.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you I think the best way to analyze the performance of a ebonite feed in a practical, like scientific way would be to get one nib and be able to try it with a plastic and an ebonite feed because things vary. But what have you found anything specific with your pens that have ebonite feeds compared to those that don't? Like, for instance, you have a Centini with an ebonite feed and you have a
Yeah.
Centini with a knot. That's a
Right.
good comparison because it's the same
It is.
brand.
Yeah.
What have you found as far as performance goes?
Granted that the nib sizes are very different.
Oh, okay.
But I would say, and I also base this assessment not only on this specific brand, but say I also happen to like Mont Blanc a lot. And I do have a lot of vintage pens, vintage Mont Blancs. And so I have one 46 that is from 2016, and I have 146 from 1970s, 1980s, and one of them has the ebonite feed.
Okay.
Both are mediums, but very different writers, very different
Okay.
mediums. Medium on the vintage is definitely wider. It's definitely much wetter, and I think that's the kind of case with ebonite feed in general.
Yeah.
I feel like that those pens that are extra fines and fines probably benefit from having, in my
Yeah.
opinion, having an ebonite feed potentially. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I just feel like I might not want an ebonite feed in every single, pen. And I know some people really have feelings about ebonite, so that's what I'm saying. I think there's a use case for them, and then there are times that you don't really need it.
I think the thing I like about it in theory is that it's as far as material goes, it's a superior material. It's more robust. So I like that aside from the performance side of it, because not that everyone would be handling the nibs and the feeds necessarily, but I definitely have had occasion where I remove a nib and a feed and things like that. And I think having an ebonite feed that's it is a more robust material, something that you don't have to feel worry about as much. And the same goes for like the housing. So for instance, one pen I haven't shared yet, it's the only Visconti I have anymore. And this is a vintage too from the 90s. It's a celluloid, sterling silver hardware, and it's a pocket pen. It's really pretty. But the housing on the inside is presumably ABS plastic, like the feed is. And the nib unit unthreads out, but the housing has a pretty severe crack in it. It still works, no problem, but that's something that, like, in time may become a more serious challenge. And if it was ebonite, I don't think the likelihood of that happening, at least this early, because it's only from the 90s, probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you definitely have your point there. I think I was thinking more of like performance side of it, but you have a point.
Yeah. No, I agree with you as far as performance. Like, I think it's definitely at least it seems to me, is a wetter experience as far as ink flow goes. And I agree that's not always necessarily better. So it kind of depends.
Yeah, I think that there are times you don't want it.
Yeah.
Especially if you have that super broad, 1.5, and then you have an ebonite feed on there. That's a marker. That's a
Yeah. Or if
serious
you
stuff.
have an extra fine nib that you want to write extra fine and it writes more like a fine because of the ink flow being so generous.
And that's a good point, Lo. He always uses drier inks and ebonite feeder pens. Yeah, it's a life hack. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to be more aware about that because I'd say like the ones that I have challenges with the ebonite feeds being too generous with the ink flow. So one would be the Aurora Fine because um it writes on, you know, more of like a fine medium maybe. So pairing that with a drier ink would help it write more like a true fine, which I would appreciate because I like finer writers. And the other is we haven't talked about Scribo yet. Do you have any
I
Scribo?
don't. That's another brand I don't have. Do you have any?
Yeah. Um so I think in general to talk to my younger fountain pen hobbyist self, I would have said not to wait so long on Aurora and on Stipula, because I really enjoyed their pens, and I feel like it probably would have been better for me to have tried them earlier in my journey. So I got my first Scribo, excuse me, secondhand also, and it's um I think I get the connection between them and Omos because they have the Omos nib equipment.
Mm.
And the writing experience is very nice. So this is their Scribo Feel. And I got the extra fine flex on it. It does have an ebonite feed, and it has a very,
Could
I would
you
say it has a,
show the whole pen to us and just keep it a little longer because it was like fluctuating? Oh, that's so beautiful. You got it in that material. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
think it
the
was called Strata or something like that.
yes. Yes,
Hmm.
that's right. So this one has the faceted body, and I think
Hmm.
the design is so unique, and some people maybe don't care for it, but I quite like it. It's faceted and then it
Yeah.
tapers in toward the center cap. If I'd pick one thing that I think this pen can use improvement on as far as design goes, I'd say the clip. I'm not terribly fond of it. It's not bad,
Mm.
but I think you could use a little more finesse. Other than that, I really like the design. And I put this pen off for a very long time because you can see there's a significant step down. And that's something that historically I don't care for. I find it uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But this pen is extremely comfortable. Like, I'm very surprised by it. And it's definitely up there with the comfort of like an Aurora to me. It is a piston. If pressed, I'd say I prefer cartridge converters probably because they're easier to maintain and clean. And I like that generally the nib removal is easier, but the nib is a very lovely writing experience. It
So
just
what
has that special finesse to it.
if you compare your I know your so what nib you have? Did I miss it? Did you tell us
Extra
yet?
fine flex.
Fine flex. So that is flex, and then your Omaz does not have a flex. It has a
No.
regular. So, but when you compare them, I know they're slightly different, but how do they compare?
Yeah, I they have like a similar spirit, I would say, that it feels like a very um I think that when we talk about like the feel of a nib, some people that have more fine motor skills or more like that tactile feel that sense feedback or the shape of a nib or the tuning of a nib, can appreciate these qualities of these brands more. And I don't know if that's like just an individual trait of people, or if it's more like how much experience you've had, or how many different nibs you've tried, or I'm not really sure. But they have, I think it's like a special shaping to them that give a very pleasant writing experience. And what I mean by that is some nibs, if you look at them under a nib, are kind of just blobby. Like they're just kind of like round and without much finesse and shape to them. And they write just standardly. So like I would say in general, Yovo is an example of that. They're good writers, like generally speaking, they're consistent and they're familiar, but there's nothing special about the shape of them. They're very like monotoned, if I can put it that way. Versus there's some pens that I think there's something about the shape of them, and perhaps in part the feedback that they're finished with, give a extra finesse to the writing experience, and you can feel that. Not to mention that generally speaking, they're finished very nicely, meaning that they're well tuned. And that's completely different than the way that the tipping is shaped. Two separate things. So I think that these pens hit on both fronts of those, that they have a unique shaping to them. That's what it feels like. I don't really know how better to describe that. But they have more finesse, and that they're well tuned. So like, meaning that no matter which direction you write with them, they're performing very well. And I'm sure that's not always the case. Like there's always occasions where people get a pen and they're like, yeah, I need to get a to a new Meister because it's misaligned
Yeah.
or because it's scratchy or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's been my experience. And I think my best example of what I've experienced with this is you were mentioning Pelican before.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite vintage nibs are the Pelican nibs,
Mm-hmm.
from like the 50s specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And other years too, other decades, but specifically, have really enjoyed some of the extra fines from the 50s. And when you look at them under a loop, they don't look anything like you would see from the modern offerings, which are more bulbous. They have a lot of shaping to them. Like an extra fine will have a shaping that looks like a softened architect. So like the nib is slanting slightly forward like an architect would, but it's not branded as like anything like an architect. It's just an extra fine. So it just seems to me, which is the case with vintage everything, really, like vintage cars, vintage furniture, vintage whatever, is that there was a lot more, let's say, like style and customization or shape in general given
Yeah,
to.
let me show you something as well.
Yeah.
And the other Italian pens, they're not really pens, but they are pens. Not in your and my standard understanding of fountain pen is, and that's I'm talking about these because there is a use case for them. Something you said. It's another thing that I collect. I collect the glass nib, and
Oh
the
yeah.
reason they had these, all of these, was because they use them to copy with the copying paper, the carbon, you know,
The glass
paper.
nibs?
Yeah, and so this
Really?
is the
Oh,
body is fountain pen basically, because this
okay.
one is the lever fill.
Uh-huh.
This one I can never get it off, but this is your button fill.
Okay.
And then this one was also button fill, I think. No. Anyhow,
Interesting.
so these were use case nibs. And so what you're talking about is also use case. And they had so many different uses. So even if you look at the old Esterbrook nibs, right? They had like specific use cases written on them. So
Yeah.
somewhere for copying, somewhere for accountants,
Yeah.
and so many different. So for drawing, for example, in art, like that was something that for me was so interesting coming into the hobby
Mhm.
after observing my dad using fountain pens for drafting, because for me it was like normal. It was not for writing. A lot of times I saw fountain pen for drafting purposes or for art purposes a lot. And so I feel like there's so many functions, and back in the day they understood that and translated those
Mhm.
functions nibs, right? That's
Yeah.
my gist too.
Yeah. And the same was that's so interesting because I didn't know that about the glass. Well, first of all, I didn't even know that they made vintage glass nibbed fountain pens. I saw that when you were having a set available on your shop. But prior to that, like I didn't know that that was an offering. So that it's so interesting to me. Um,
They're fun.
but yeah, yeah. But also in reference to like the shape of nibs in the Pelican ones, also the vintage, a medium, again, instead of being just kind of a bulbous medium shape, the medium vintage Pelican looked like a stub. It was shaped very, very much like what we would identify modernly now as a stub. So it's flatter, has the rounded edges, but it gave that line variation. So I think that's so interesting that there was so much more uniqueness and shapes to these vintage nibs. So I think that's, I mean, circling back, that's what I think of when I say that the writing experience is very unique. Is often it's because there's a little bit more character given to those nibs that offer a different experience that's very unique and very pleasant. And for me, that includes feedback because I really like that was one of the things I really loved about um, the Aurora nibs. Not, it seems like they're kind of dropping that now more modernly, but the Aurora nibs classically had a sailor like feedback originally, which that amount of feedback, like sailor and like the original older Auroras had, I find very pleasant. I think that's for me personally a superior writing experience than having a smooth nib.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you also have to get to that point. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like when you just start out, you just need to be comfortable. And
Yes.
that as your hobby and your experience grows, that's when you start branching out and
Mhm.
appreciate these things, right? On a
Definitely.
different level. All right, you guys, I say 5 more minutes for your questions if you have anything for Galen. And then we are doing a bit of a crossover. So I'll be on her channel in a month or two. So
Mhm.
we'll do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is fun because I've not had this kind of more in-depth talk about, nibs and Italian pens, because I feel like the thing with Italian pens is either people love them or fear them.
Yeah. And for me, if I was going to take if you were gonna categorize the pens, I would definitely I just love Italian pens.
Yeah.
I would definitely just if I had to pick, I would stay in the Italian pen realm. To me, it's I love the personality of the design.
Mhm.
They're artistic, they're very beautiful. I love often the materials that are used that, go so beautifully with the design and with the shape of them. Like we mentioned earlier, I love that so many of the nibs are made in-house, along with a lot of the rest of the pen, if not all of it. Um, it's just a lot of them do tend to have ebonite feeds too, which I think is generally speaking a plus, not necessarily, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a nice feature.
Pretty rare these days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, because you have to, ebonite is a material that, as you say, it's very robust. You have to shape it, and I feel
mhm,
like Do you ever look at the feeds, ebonite feeds? I feel like they're all so different as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I just feel like they're so individual to company, and that's something I really like seeing.
Yes. No, it is fun to see like the design that they've done for the feed. And if I'm disassembling a nib, um, or that part, taking a nib out and feed of a pen, I'll often like check how the slit for feeding the ink into the nib is done too, because that varies quite a bit too. Like how narrow or how wide that channel is, or if it's a double channel. Like these are all things that I'm very curious about. So when you take a pen apart, like you were saying, kind of looking at the structure of the feed, like how the fins are shaped or how many or what direction they're going in.
Mhm.
I've noticed that on like vintage Pelicans too, is like I had one from the 50s that had like basically four channels going with the length of the nib, and it's just a monster feed. Like it delivered a huge amount of ink, but somehow controlled, because it could do like a really fine line, but then if you flexed it, it delivered a lot. And if you did so much as like just shake the nib like this, it would just like spit ink out.
Oh man. I'm fascinated with that. And I just like the more different pens with ebonite feeds and also like vintage ones
Yeah,
I have gotten, the more like I understand, I realize how like different companies had to shape them. And that's what I appreciate about Santini, going back to them. They have that chunky feed, and I just love it. It's just so fun.
yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, guys, this I feel like this has been one of the best technical conversations I've had about the nibs.
Yeah, and I love that too. I really have enjoyed the technical aspects of the hobby, especially with nibs. And I encourage everyone, like if you enjoy your pens, if you have a pen or a nib that you especially enjoy, like, get your loop out and take a look at it. Like they are so interesting, and sometimes you unearth what it is about the writing experience that you like by kind of comparing some of these different nibs that are your favorites. I know I have. And it's just so interesting to see too, like the different brands or different models, like how the nibs, especially the tipping, I guess I'm talking about specifically, are shaped. It's just a lot of fun to enjoy these details, like you mentioned about what we enjoy so much.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many different aspects to fountain pens, you know. It's everything from, I feel like that's the biggest question I always get. Why should I use a fountain pen
Mm,
to lay, ink and not rollable or whatever? And I feel
yeah.
like the ink experience for me, as someone who deals with art and is in the art world, the experience of laying ink
Mhm.
is very different.
Yes.
The way, even before we get to the different nib shapes and how you can have literally several different nibs in one nib, even before that, you just realize that just the ink is just comes out so differently. There is
Yeah.
such a kind of like that ritual experience when you fill the pen with new ink, all of that. And it's just fun. It's just
Yeah.
something that I feel like really sets it apart. And then you get into nibs, and then you get into technicality of things, and you understand that the instrument itself is just endlessly fascinating.
Yeah. I agree.
And
I
we,
love that.
we're
I
all
really
nerds.
appreciate that.
We're nerds here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question for you is, what is the main difference between a plastic feed and an ebonite one?
Yeah. So I think we kind of touched on this, but if I was to summarize it, and feel free to um, put your points into Marina, but I'd say the robustness of the material itself. So, from my experience, the ebonite would be more of a robust material than the ABS plastic or whatever is usually used for the plastic feeds. but also it's the ink delivery tends to be reputably more consistent and a wetter writing experience, which I think is why a lot of nibs that go with um, flex are better performing with an ebonite feed because they can keep up better.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and it
Hmm.
has to do with the nature of the material itself. It's the virtue of the material. So like the ABS plastic would be like, I don't know specifically, like technically, but I'm quite certain that the ebonite is a hardened rubber, so it would be somewhat more porous
Hmm.
than the ABS plastic. So I
Yeah,
think it just like kind of holds and flows that ink in a superior manner, you would say, in a general way.
I agree with everything. I think my only biggest problem, it's nothing, not even like, that it makes your writing wider in some cases. None of that. My biggest problem with ebonite is that I would never put shimmer in the pen with ebonite feed. It's very hard to wash it out
Yeah.
because of the porous nature. I had a very sheeny ink in one of my Omas, and it was just quite a long time until I could get that
Yeah.
sheen the feed.
Yeah. So
That's the
that
only downside.
yeah,
Downside.
so that's true in that respect too, that um it's not a it's not superior in every way. So like if you are using a lot of um inks with special properties like you mentioned, like shimmer and sheen, in that respect the performance might be or at least the maintenance of that feed would maybe better to have the ABS plastic.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also think that ebonite is definitely more expensive for a company to have on their pen than plastic.
Yeah, that would be curious. I'm sure that it is a more expensive material, but I don't know, like in a technical way. Like even if, let's say, you could make a plastic feed for like 25 cents or something, or
Hmm.
that's like the cost of the material itself. Um, Even if you said it's like 5 times more expensive, for example, that's only like $1.25 or something. So I don't know. It would be curious. That's how these like technical things, like the machining of things, materials, like even with gold, like we know gold is very expensive, but sometimes you see the jump in pricing from steel to gold, and it's kind of outrageous. Even when gold is so expensive. So then there's a lot of more technical questions like, well, is it a lot more expensive to machine gold or to mold gold, or like, I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah, that's been my biggest question with Mont Blanc because at some point they switched from their just beautiful ebonite feeds to plastic.
mm,
And so that's been always my question. Was it the question of money?
yeah,
Or was it the question that everyone was using plastic at that point
yeah.
already? So,
Yeah, if it's just one of those things where they don't feel it's necessary and it is cheaper, so then they're just like, okay, well, why not?
yeah.
you know it's such an interesting thing with luxury pens too, though, because when we talk about ways that companies can reduce costs when they're trying to adjust their margins for profit, I would so much more like to see the money that I'm paying going into the quality and the quality control of my pen than having this elaborate box that often if you're getting a pen that's worth couple $100 or approaching 1,000, usually it comes in a pretty elaborate box packaging. And I think if you were to ask most people in the fountain pen community that are users and collectors, what would you rather have your money go toward? It's not the box.
Mm-mm.
I think that originated from having these expensive pens be given as gifts, whether
Hmm.
it's corporate gifts or like special occasions.
Graduation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I've gotten some pretty elaborate boxes and I'm like, well, I keep them. I do keep them. I don't get rid of them, but I definitely don't use them. And though it's
Mhm.
like it may be somewhat impressive when you first open the box to be like, "Oh wow, look at this." Um it's not really of value to me in the end.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, you guys. I think we're done here. It's 2 hours
Yeah,
of us talking, which I
yeah,
really very much enjoy. So,
likewise.
if you're not subscribed to Galen's channel, I have everything of all of her information is in the description,
Thank
and
you.
we will announce when I'll be on her channel. So go ahead, subscribe, follow both of us on Instagram. So we'll make a joint announcement. Yay!
Yes, it'll be a pleasure to chat with you again and to have you as a guest
Oh,
on my channel. But
yeah,
thank you so much for having me on, and it was so much fun to chat Italian pens. And like you mentioned, it's really special to be able to chat about some of the technical aspects of the hobby and the pens that we enjoy so much.
yeah. All right, you guys. Goodbye, everyone, and we'll see you soon.